Here on the table, we have a PC that is in need of some tech, yes, loving. But of course, we got this PC on a bargain in a recent parts hunt, which I'll put the link for up here, where we paid 60 Aussie dollars for this case, power supply, which is 700 watt, and an X58 motherboard with a 4-core i7, but that i7 is a little bit dated for what I intend to do with this build, so we're replacing that with a 6-core, 12-threaded X5675 overclockable Xeon, which I got for 30 Aussie dollars, and also we're going to be adding in 2 drives, which costs $20 and $19 Aussie respectively. And then we're going to be overclocking this with the Snowman cooler, which is a $22 CPU cooler on AliExpress. And the good thing is it fits this motherboard and it does a pretty good job of overclocking. Of course, the most important part, we have the graphics card, the 980 Ti. We picked this up in another deals hunt for 250 Aussie dollars. So this is going to bring this whole total here to 411 Aussie dollars. If you're in America, about 280 USD. Of course, I forgot to mention, we do have 3 untested memory sticks, which I got for 10 Aussie dollars. So if we have a problem with today's build, it's most likely going to come from these memory sticks. Though, if everything does end up working out perfectly, then we're gonna compare a build like this to some of the latest builds that have been coming through the channel, especially those price performance ones with 3500Xs and 1660 Supers, to see how this build stacks up in 2019. Let's give this thing some tech, yes, loving, and see what we can make out of this previously neglected PC that nobody wanted anymore and they got rid of for a cheap price. But it's okay, I'm gonna make sure you find a new home and you are looking better than those new PCs that are coming out with all that RGB bling. That is right, I'm now starting to talk to my computers because I know that PCs
have feelings
too.
Sunset slow, hey, you know you should stay for the night. What you think, one more drink while we sit by the bonfire. 'Cause this might be love, it's a feeling that I can't get rid of. So just take my hand, 'cause you know I don't wanna play pretend. Stay with me, take a chance, baby, roll the dice. Gotta give me some love, 'cause when I'm with you, I'm in paradise. You know how to make me feel alive. Gotta give me some love, nah, nah. Gotta give me some love, nah, nah, nah. Gotta give me some love, nah, nah, nah. You gotta give me some love, nah, nah, nah. Gotta give me some love, nah, nah, nah. Let's go! I need you, what to do, I can't help that I want you. We got the moonlight shining bright as we drive down the avenue. 'Cause this might be love, it's a feeling that I can't get rid of. So just take my hand, I wanna be with you until the end. Stay with me, take a chance, baby, roll the dice. Gotta give me some.
And now we've cleaned all these parts up and I actually ran out of alcohol wipes that I usually use, so I had to improvise a little bit, but I'd say we've done a pretty good job of making this stuff look like brand new. But let's put the final product together and see how well we can start overclocking it, or of course, if we come in to any problems. So before we put it into the case, we had to do a couple of things, and that was update the BIOS because the BIOS beforehand didn't support the 6-core Xeon, And then we had to replace a faulty 4GB stick of memory. And now we've just checked everything out. We've got 12 gigabytes of RAM running in triple channel. We've got our 980 Ti ready to go with that Snowman cooler. And it's always good to just check everything and get everything working on a test bed before you drop it in the case, because if something doesn't work when you put it inside the case, then you're gonna have to waste a heap of time possibly taking everything out. And yeah, it's just a lot easier to get this, the final product kind of thing, outside the case working, then put it inside the case, and then turn yourself inside out, upside down. And here's the finished product right here. We've got a brand new looking PC, and we didn't really run into any problems besides that CPU 8-pin, which it was just time consuming. We had to flip the build upside down so it would hold in without installing the motherboard and falling down. And then we had to actually spend a few minutes installing it with this limited amount of space up here. So you got to take your choice on whether you want to be a pain installing the CPU cooler or a pain installing the CPU 8-pin. I usually choose installing the 8-pin because it does take a little bit less time on average. And then below that, we've got the 980 Ti looking schmick, got its area of its own, where I actually had to put this hard drive up one notch so that would fit. And one thing I'm a little bit worried about is this two 8-pin connectors here to the 980 Ti. The gauge of the wires is a little bit thin, so I'll probably avoid overclocking the 980 Ti, but we are definitely going to be overclocking the X5675 Xeon, getting the most out of it. Though we've got the orange LED fans on the top here, and I've got a Tetris airflow setup. That's what I'm going to call it. We've got intake, intake, outtake, outtake. So it's kind of like boom, 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 boom. And there's our airflow. And I've decided to leave the side panel off because I just feel like it takes away from this build, where this thing is looking, how would you say it? Visita Pancho Mancho, and that is Swedish for this thing is big. I feel if we put that side panel on, it's not only going to trap air inside, but it's also going to make this build just look terrible. So we're going to avoid doing that. And what we're doing now is installing Windows 10 Pro, and after that, we're finally going to start overclocking and installing those games and benchmarking them. Now, speaking of Windows 10, picture this. You've just built your new or used gaming rig, and you've got this Windows is not activated in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And then you've looked online for Windows 10 Pro licenses, and you're seeing that they're going for $100 plus. At this stage, you may be freaked out and you're like, how can I get a cheap option? Well, fear no longer. With today's video sponsor, SCD Keys, you can get a legit single end user license for Windows 10 Pro for as little as $13 US by using the link in the description below and then banging in that coupon code TYCSK for 12% off. I've used these licenses for a while now and they always work fine. Links in the description below. Let's get back to overclocking that Xeon. Here we are with the Xeon, and we've got 4.4 gigahertz at 1.36 volt roughly. That's with load line calibration turned on. And here we are, 90 degrees maximum. So it is getting a little bit hot on the CPU, but this is in pretty hot ambient conditions, 29 degrees C. And this is all done on the Snowman, which I was surprised. Like, this is that budget AliExpress cooler, and it's handling this 6-core 12 thread overclock to pretty much peak. I mean, you can probably edge it out to 4.5, maybe even 4.6 in colder ambience on a better cooler, but seriously, the value for money proposition we've got going on here.
The Iceman cometh!
So let's see how you guys paired together stack up against the 1660 Super Combo. And also, I've still got to tune the memory just a little bit. Boom. X58, performance, value for money. This is what it's all about with the 6-core Xeon, the X5675. We saw those numbers. The 980 Ti as well, going hard, in complete synergy to give us smooth, high frame rates at not only 1080p, but this thing could also play games at 1440p. Now comparing this against the 1660 Super with the 9900K, we're getting roughly about 10% more performance. But there was one little problem I did run into in Fortnite, and we're gonna quickly rewind that part in the video when I said I wasn't going to overclock the 980 Ti. Is this two 8-pin connectors here to the 980 Ti. The gauge of the wires is a little bit thin, so I'll probably avoid overclocking the 980 Ti, but now, when we were benchmarking Fortnite, we had a weird problem where the graphics card wasn't dropping out, but it was close to dropping out. I have never seen this before, but dropping down the power limit from 100% to 95% fixed this problem. So basically, this was a weird example when we had a power supply that had the grunt inside, but the wires used just simply did not have enough girth to give that power to that big beast of a 980 Ti. But other than that, 1440p numbers, they were absolutely fine on this rig too. The 5675 Xeon, that didn't present any problems when we overclocked it to 4.4 gigahertz. Now what we had here was something that simply worked. I'd say 12 gigabytes of RAM is a sweet spot for this kind of build. You wouldn't want to go any lower on RAM, but at the same time, we got that triple channel working with 1700 megahertz on the DDR3 memory. Not only that, we have a 1 terabyte hard drive for copying all our games over, and we've got that 120 gigabyte SSD there to boot up Windows and have a snappy experience. And I gotta say, this time around, this build went pretty smooth. There really wasn't anything that was headache inducing as opposed to the other recent X58 build that I did. I'll put the link up here if you haven't seen that one. That gave us a lot of problems from start to finish, mainly though with the motherboard and not being able to lock in overclocks properly. This 4-slotted board, which is kind of weird for X58 by the way, it's usually got 6 slots of memory, it didn't really present any problems. After I updated the BIOS and then put that Xeon in, everything went really smoothly. I got to 4.2 gigahertz quickly, then I went up to 4.4 without locking in the memory. That went smooth. Then we locked in the memory and I did have a crash on the memory, but then I just dropped the timings down a little bit to, it was like 1760 megahertz or something. CL11, that's what I ended up with. And then after that, it was smooth sailing. So I don't know what to say. At the end of the day, playing games on something like this for the budget is definitely going to give you a good experience, even in 2019, and even with titles like Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, of course, if you want to play Fortnite on epic settings, then this thing will even do that at 1440p. Of course, if you want high refresh rate, then you can step it down to 1080p. I mean, with X58, one thing is, it's certainly far from finished, And we did apply that inspector patch where we disabled the Spectre and Meltdown updates. And of course, in my experience, that does help lift your gaming performance, not just with the actual overall average FPS, but also those 1 and 0.1% lows, which were looking really good in today's build as well. So 3 games got tested and all 3 games were beating the latest and greatest 1660 Super. But keep in mind, 1660 Super is a really good value for money graphics card on the new market. These 980 Ti's, although I got this for $250 Aussie, and on the used market in the US, you might be paying anywhere as low as $150 USD. I wouldn't pay any more, however, than about $200 USD for a 980 Ti, because the downside is it does juice up a lot more power than a 1660 Super. And when I tested the overall power consumption of this rig versus the 9900K rig, and keep in mind, the 9900K juices a lot of power too, we saw a difference of over 200 watts from the wall, but the 700 watt power supply we were using isn't anywhere as near as efficient as the power supply that I am using on my test bench. But that being said, if we had a 1660 Super with a Ryzen 5 3500X, power consumption is going to be even better than it is on the 9900K systems. But ultimately what we've got here is something that will come in with performance better than a new build of over twice the price, but it does use a bit more power as a consequence. So that's what it's all about with these older used builds. You can get them up and running and get some really good price performance, but do keep in mind, you will be juicing a bit of extra power from the wall. Though with all that out of the way, we've got a build here that's had some tech, yes, loving. It's got good price performance, but also I want you guys to let us know in the comments, are you digging this look that we've got going on here with the big parts like the 980 Ti, the Snowman cooler, and that old school power supply with ketchup and mustard? I personally think it just goes perfect with this older looking case, in that we've got this mean machine that, although doesn't have the RGB ring fan look going on, I gotta say personally, it just matches what this build's all about. I personally like the look, I'm digging it. Would love reading your thoughts and opinions below. And also I did cut myself, as I mentioned, with a little text in the video, but that's all good. It's not anywhere near as bad as what I did last year, and I've learnt not to go too hard on the pressure. But we've got the question of the day here from Merv, and he asks, any updates with the card after downclocking? Does it still work? I want to know if it's worth it to buy a cheap 2080 Ti that is having artifact issues. And basically Merv is referring to this video we did on the Aorus 2080 Ti, I'll put the link up here, over a year ago, where it just started artifacting, and then I did a bit more research, and it was the Micron memory. At least that's what the conclusion I came to was, and basically what I did after that was downclock the memory as far as I could go, and the card was working again. However, with that card, Aorus contacted me directly. They wanted it back because they wanted to research it, and they said they would fix it up and bring it back to me, and they did just that. It came back and it had Samsung GDDR6 memory on it, so hopefully that answers that question. I mean, I thought that's what it was in the video, but them sending me back the same card with Samsung memory on it definitely proves that was the cause, at least on that particular card. However, in terms of buying that RTX 2080 Ti, if it comes with warranty, then definitely go for it if you can get it cheap enough, and then just get it RMA'd and you got a brand new RTX 2080 Ti for hopefully a lot less than you can get it at retail. Hope that answers that question, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's build. If you did, then be sure to smash that like button for us. Also, if you want some links to some of the parts we used in today's build, won't be all the links, of course. Getting a case, X58 board and power supply all together for that kind of money can't really be bought online, but some of the other things like the Xeon and some DDR3 memory, you get that pretty cheap, as well as an SSD online. Put some links in the description below, as well as that Windows 10 license from today's video sponsor, SCD keys, all below. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you watched this far and you're still watching and you're not subbed yet, sub button, ring the bell, it's down there. Also, before I get on out of here, a big thank you to each and every one of you guys for watching the videos and subbing. We just broke 400K subs here at Tech Yes City, so this city keeps on growing. And also at the end of the month, I'm gonna do a special video where I'm going real behind the scenes towards Christmas. So this milestone has just coincided with Christmas. Big thank you once again, and I'll see you next time. Peace out for now. Bye.
Stay with me, take a chance, baby, roll the dice. Gotta give me some love, cause when I'm with you, I'm in paradise. You know how to make me feel alive. Gotta give me some love, nah, nah. Gotta give me some love, nah, nah, nah. Gotta give me some love, nah, nah, nah.